All right, I believe we're live. And for those of you that are already with us, please do let me know if the sound is good. I don't want any situations like the last 7 minutes where I spoke and had a few notes to read through and nobody heard me. So if you're struggling with sound, let me know early. So before we get started, my name is Jay Roulette. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. I work with around 1,000 clients a year, helping them navigate the system, many of which do not have the time to figure out some of the complicated efforts you have to go through to get vouchers, portability, and all the other legal issues. And, we also work with landlords, a lot of which need to be trained and have a fine understanding of all the sub types of properties and how that might play out. We also do speaker events for the Legal Aid Society and many others. And we also, in addition to that, work with caseworkers, many of which need to be trained because formal training does not usually include the wicked ability to be able to navigate the Section 8 housing program. And though a caseworker can make people feel good and connect them with a phone number, it doesn't always equate into the kind of training they're going to need to be able to navigate this system. That being said, I'm going to grab my notes real quick. We're going to talk about these deep cuts. We all expected these deep cuts, and just keep in mind, guys, I'm going to answer questions. Just give me about 7 minutes to get through this. That way we're able to cover all the things that are important to everybody, and then I'll get into whatever's going on. And you can ask whatever you want as long as it's not going to be an overly complicated question that require me to speak for a half hour, okay? So, deep cuts to the Section 8 housing program and those that may be doing housing choice vouchers and subsidies. The U.S. House of Representatives and Committee on Appropriations and also their subcommittee, which is going to be under THUD, THUD, they've pretty much unveiled their draft for the 2024 spending, and we all expected cuts. So we will figure out which ways these cuts are going to happen, who's going to be affected, and in which programs. So for the fiscal year of 2024, on July 11th, which I am a little bit late, aren't I, to getting this information out, but the bill proposes a fund of around $68.2 billion, which is roughly only 10% increase over the prior year. Problem is that's 10% of them. We're still missing 90%. Okay, the increase in the funding for HUD programs over previously enacted acts, and due to the increased cost of rent, which have raised housing costs for just about everybody in the nation, including those that have been hit really hard in the state of California, Arizona, New York, San Francisco, and so on. So despite some of the funding, HUD needs now an estimated $13 billion, which is a big number. I mean, $63 billion seems like a lot, but imagine a shortfall of around $13 billion. So you have to ask what got cut. Despite the overall increased spending bill, they're proposing deep cuts to even eliminate some of HUD's programs altogether. And even while it also appears as NLIHC, which is the members and partners and allies, have urged throughout most of this process, but it appears the House demands deep cuts to spending bills, and so the Transportation Section THUD Committee will likely see the deepest cuts overall to its programs, with almost a 60% decrease. You heard me right. 60% decrease proposed relative to last year's funding. The bill also will rescind over $500 million in unobligated bounces to the Office of Lead, Hazard Control, and Healthy Homes, and $25 billion to the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS, for funding provided for the Inflation Reduction Act, which have provided extra funding for HUD's budget. So we're seeing some major fallout here, okay? This thing clears, there's going to be some big problems. Now, this won't happen instantly next year, but it's going to happen. So what's going to be targeted right now? So the bill would provide some increases under the Homeless Assistance Program, better known as HAG. Many of you have known what HAG is, or you know what CES is, which is Coordinated Entry System. Many of you know what HIMS system is, which is Homeless Information Management System. And many more know what the Service Prioritization Tool, or SPDAT, is, which actually administers that. But beyond all those things, where some of the major cuts are going to be coming is going to be under subsidies. And so for those of you that reside in public housing capital or operated funds that fall under subsection of federal code, and here it comes, Section 811 and Section 202, you're going to be in trouble, okay? If you already have it, fantastic. You're not in trouble. But if your pursuit is going to be in the market of accepting project-based housing, subsidies, that means you don't have a voucher. Let's not confuse the two. One, you have a housing choice voucher where you have the choice and a voucher to pick where you want to live. You can also have vouchers that are connected to Section 811, 202, which is seniors with disabilities, 202, and 811, which is non-seniors with a disability. But if you choose to live in a subsidy property with no voucher, it gets subsidized that way. And the future is very grim for that, especially going forward the next 6 to 10 years. Okay. So where's this all pushing to? It's coming to a head where all programs are being pushed is pretty much that you either accept a voucher and have the choice to go pick out where you live, and they're just simply going to start defunding a great portion of what would be subsidized living, low-income housing, and affordable housing, which translate to most of you as what you may know as project-based housing. That's when the housing authority not only assist you, but they're the ones that own the building. Now, you can imagine if you're treated badly by the housing authority, how much better do you think it's going to be when they're actually your landlord? That would be project-based housing, where it's mismanaged usually pretty badly. Then you have subsidy, which means the housing authority is not the owner of the property, but a private individual owns it. It gets it sub-designated 202 or 811, and he accepts those people, and he gets it subsidized, which means there's no voucher involved in it. And so those type of properties are going to be the ones that are going to be hit hard. So most of you are going to have to learn what a voucher is and how to use that and get out of the realm of private and subsidized homes, because in the future, they're unlikely to probably fund this very well. And I can tell you, this is probably going to go a little bit deeper as we go. Also, home investment partnership programs, better known as people that accept federal funding to build affordable housing. What does all that mean? For those of you dealing with the HUD home ownership program, look, that program's already been de-evolving. It started in 2000, and it has been falling to pieces now, and it took its hardest hit in 2016. Now it's fixed to take another hit. And so, how do I think that's going to play out? Well, look, it's about a 40% reduction in the HUD home ownership program. It means you're wanting to own a home. Does it mean it's going to be more difficult? No, because actually most people don't even know how to get through that or even how to get it. And so I don't think it's going to affect it. I think what they're actually doing there is they're cutting the fat from the program, and it was never really administered that well. I know our office has worked with many people over the years to assist them with navigating that and even how to get it. And so now what you're seeing is probably the death stroke to that program. In other words, it'll become more of a novelty item that housing authorities offer than something that would be mainstream anymore. So we should expect that that will likely evaporate as a program in the near future, meaning 6 to 10 years. All right, I see lots of questions here, so I'm going to try to address those. Lezen, but you know, you've got a wonderful name. I'm going to just call you Leza. Well, I'll tell you what, you got a good one. Miss Panzini, I think. Is there an easier way to find out what all towns in my state's payment standards are, other than calling each one individually? So payment standards typically are going to be issued by each PHA, and unfortunately, since public housing authorities take the guidance, HUD gives guidance on what should be happening. So the upper limit and the lower limit, unfortunately, you will actually have to call each individual one. If you're lucky enough, the public housing authorities will have it published on the website. For the ones that cannot afford a lot of IT services, you may literally have to do that as what we call an open public request, where you're, as the public, since it's publicly funded, you're entitled to that information, and thus they have to provide it. But they can take up to 2 weeks to give it to you. Okay. A phone call is probably going to be appropriate in each situation. There isn't a hot sheet part, and even if there was, it would change dynamically each month. Good Redmond, glad to catch you today, he says. Thanks for the updates. You're the best. Well, I don't know if I'm the best, but I'm definitely the most well-known. So it would be nice to be both, right? Tis. Deep cuts to the Department of Defense gets approval for $800 million. Well, you know, we have $1 trillion for potholes, but anytime we need to fund people, veterans, get them off the street, it's simply unimportant. We must always spend trillions on potholes and bridges. We simply don't have time for humans. So what do? When you fix the bridge, you put people under it and don't help them, right? That is the mission. That is the message that's being sent across this nation, is that we'll fix the bridge so you can live under it, right? All right, good Redmond. Personally found a payment standard on a county website in my area, but you're lucky enough then. I probably dealt with 2,800 housing authorities across America and all 50 states, including their territories and Puerto Rico. And let me tell you, it's a lot like Easter. When you go out there and mom is hiding the eggs in the yard, you've got to go hunting for this information. Some people actually get angry when you ask for it. They feel that you you're trying to be too smart and clever with them if you actually start asking questions. That's part of owning a voucher. And when you have public housing authorities that would prefer to indenture those that want it, which means they keep you barefooted and stupid as long as possible. And then anytime you have a problem with the way that they operate, of course, there'll be absolute hell to pay. And let me just say that that's strictly a spicy opinion of things, but I think I've dealt with them enough to see some of the poor attitude. I would say that even an angry woman, a teenager at a McDonald's drive-thru handing out cheeseburgers, often has a better attitude than those that are operably running housing authorities. It's like it's like the housing authority operates in some of the lower rings of hell, and you may be contacting and calling the devil himself and requesting information he doesn't want to give you. There are some housing authorities, of course, that operate ethically, but it's so far and in between that you might have felt that you have called the local church and made a mistake. All right, moving on from my opinions and trying to make a little fun here, clearly. I'm going to answer some further questions. Julie Moving, where can we find a list of current LIHC properties under construction in the county? So that would be through city planning and development for most cities. If the city's too small, it would likely be just their town hall or tax office or tax assessor. So city planning and development or the tax assessor. And if it's really tiny, the county judge. So for those of us that have EHV, which is Emergency Housing Voucher, how long is this EHV program? Well, it's for a lifetime as long as you don't abandon the units, you don't violate your HAP contract, and you don't actually acquire some mental health related issue that would spell out that you're unable to substantially understand and take care of yourself. In other words, you move on to nursing care. THUD funding. Rob Rose, how can I qualify to purchase a home with my Section 8 voucher? Currently live in Bronx, New York. Can you help me with that? Well, yes, we have probably less than 100 people every year with the HUD homeownership program. Be aware that that process in its totality is a lot longer than had you just had a job, went out and bought your own home. So you're probably looking at a process that can average 4 to 8 months to get all the way through it. And then you'd want to establish whether or not the housing authority in the Bronx would actually even be offering that program. Sometimes you have to port your voucher and move to a different area of New York in order to find the program at another housing authority. Not all housing authorities offer it, okay? So it's kind of like chasing the voucher. And I would suggest to those of you that are going to utilize your housing voucher towards the purchase of a home, in other words, go through that process for the HUD homeownership program, and then you start making your best moves before 2024. And what I mean by 2024, I mean when the Congress and also the House enact a lot of these bills and we see the budgetary funding. So that would mean mid-year next year, you better get this squared away, because after that, the cuts are going to likely happen, and we may see the beginning of the end of most of this, or at least to the point it's irrelevant. All right. Beyond that, guys, I will say this. We are seeing a very tough summer, okay? At present, I think, most of you realize I do work with around 1,000 lots a year. This year, not so many, because I do face a partial retirement this year after 23 years. And so I'll tell you this has been one of the tougher summers because a lot of pandemic dollars and Uncle Sam's ATM that's been melting, giving out cash, the pandemic has been closing down. And there's been a heightened need for vouchers and housing throughout the summer, and it's creating really tough market conditions, along with other things like the ever-increasing rents. In other words, while you may have a voucher that works and you can use it in an apartment complex, by the time you reach the end of your 12-month lease, you may find you can no longer even afford to live there, depending on the state you're in. So we're facing a wondrous amount of inflation. I am waiting desperately to see when we reach the peak. Even I am feeling this. You go to the store and something now it's 4 times the price. I mean, now we've moved from inflation to everybody is just gouging everybody. It isn't just stores, it's people. Anybody that can rip anybody off. Oh, well, I've got the only box of crackers. I'm going to charge $90 for it. Everybody's scamming everybody now. It's so bad. Everything is like a big scam now. I'm just seeing wild prices. Everybody's just trying to make a quick, fast dollar, but it's ruining our country, and it's still ruining it. Here we are 3-4 years later, and we have this mentality now. Now, how does that equate into housing? Well, how it equates there is greed is taken over from a lot of landlords, developers, as well as those that do property management. And so we're literally pricing the vouchers out of the market across wide swatches of the U.S. And I've had to sit down and talk to a few landlords to bring them back to reality. They're on the moon. Oh, well, I'm going to want this amount. Why can't I get 108% up? Look, no, I said, first of all, these are low income folks that need vouchers for a reason. If you're going to set your rent to something stupid, then nobody's going to be able to they don't even cut vouchers for that amount. So why would you want to enter this market? You see? And then with the budgetary cuts coming to this, we face a bigger uphill battle. But the really good news is when this inflation does die, it's going to have to go up the end of a cliff. And when it does, the same landlords that wanted all that money, want to price everything out the market, now that shack they own ain't going to be worth jack, and neither is the rent. So that means the rents, when the landlords start getting desperate, what happens? The rents start dropping like a bomb. So no longer are they competing for the highest price. Now they're just like eBay. They're all pricing their rents for nothing. I expect that to come, and I think that the sinkhole probably got another year and a half of this drama, and I think the market's going to dive off the end of a cliff. And I think the rents for the lofty heights they reach, they're going to take a nosedive, and they're going to take a bad one. And the more desperate landlords get, that means the larger group of landlords around the nation are going to start competing to see who has the lowest price just to get somebody in the building. So I'll be glad to see an end of this 4-year nightmare that we've all experienced, because it's had an extreme effect, not only on those of you who had vouchers and housing, but those of us just even have a job. I've got middle-class people calling me for the first time after all these years saying, I'm having to consider a housing voucher because I can't even afford this with a job. Now, that's ridiculous. That's where you know where the market really is. When I've got ordinary citizens, no disability, and they're hammering my phone lines every day. Please help me get a voucher because I can't even, not even with 2 jobs, can I even keep up with this. And I'm thinking to myself, now you're getting a taste of the snake bite, because you sit there and you have an opinion about people that have vouchers, and you end up in the same situation yourself. And it seems like a really good idea, right? All right, moving on. Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton, how do you use your voucher to purchase a home? I think we went over that one. Stephanie Kidney, I've been here 10 years, so that's a good thing. And Miss Panzia, one day we got to get together and get that name straightened out for me. Says you've been there 10 years. And then Miss Panzini says you ain't lying. I hope not. I hope not after all these years. If I've got to sit on this, if I got to spend my time for free on YouTube and tell you a bunch of sweet little lies about vouchers after probably processing and handling more than 20,000 cases, then clearly I'm the one that needs the mental health checkup. JM, nice to see you again. How are you? I've been doing good, guys. You know, this year, why y'all known me to make many videos, thousands at this point. It seems like over 1,000. And I took a big portion of a break this year because most of you don't realize that through the pandemic, those 3 years, our phone lines flooded and they were melting. And I tried to keep pace with that 18 hours a day, 2 years in a row. And it almost damaged my health. And I tried to save as many people from the street as I could. And, it certainly, when all that calmed down, it left me with the consequences of working extreme hours, which were close to 90 or more. And so now I decided this year to relax. So, but other than that, guys, I'm doing really good. I'm glad that people care and do ask. All right. So the good news, where's the good news? Well, the doom and gloom. Well, the doom and gloom is going to come to an end. We just need to get through one more month. And then guess what? Pretty soon we're going to hit September, and that is the golden period. The golden period is always September through December and December through March. Why? Because that Black Friday sale for vouchers and the desire to get those vouchers decreases 400% during those months. People don't want to move. They don't want vouchers. They figure the problems are solved. And so this is going to get a whole lot easier pretty soon. We just got to get through the last bits of summer, and then it's going to actually start to get a whole lot better. I know that we've had a number of cases we've struggled with this year. You know, you spend a career doing something and you get used to how things work. Well, one thing I could have never anticipated was a pandemic and creating chaos. In other words, operating philosophies, standard operating procedures, and how to handle client cases, get the job done. You get really good. Then you're thrown a curveball that fundamentally changes the system itself. And you find yourself late career having to reinvent the wheel again in order to be really good at what you do. There's nothing more annoying, right? Not only have to relearn everything every time we have a new president or a new federal budget, but a pandemic comes in and says, hey, by the way, that's so great that you've been doing it the same way successfully 10 or 20 years. We'd like to throw you a really bad, nasty curveball and then make you almost ineffective and make you learn again. There's a better way to do it. And so here we are, and I've gotten around that, the difficulties, and I would say that my job's 3 times harder than it ever has been, but it still remains effective. Julie Thomas, I've been here 13 years, she says, and my central air died this spring. Good. Well, God help your soul if you're in the South or the East. My landlord put my unit for sale. The lease ends this month. Well, Julie, it sounds like you're in a tough situation, and I'm sorry to hear that. Brittany Madero, thank you for all your dedication in helping us. Well, I certainly try. I don't know how useful this video will absolutely be for you guys. I think it's more of warning you what you should be doing. So let me tell you what the number one message here is for you guys. Why make a video like this that isn't really that good? The point is, if you're going to do something, you better quit sitting on your hands right now, okay? When mid-2024 gets here, which is around the corner, okay, and you decide, oh, well, let me just wait, and you don't act, and you get caught during this defunding period for the next couple of years, then that means your hopes or your aspirations to receive vouchers and other things is going to be extraordinarily hard, okay? In other words, you got to step on the gas, quit thinking, get out there and do what you need to do. I had that argument today with a client. He tried to reinvent the wheel to me. Oh, I thought I was paying for this and blah, blah, blah. And he thought he was going to tell me how to redo my job. And he expected all these things. And then I told him he could expect a refund because I'm not going to allow somebody to take the wisdom and the fundamentals of what I understand as a business and then have them tell me they prefer it their way. You want it your way, you go down to Burger King, right? Burger King does it there. You can do it your way there. I'm not Burger King. And if he knew what he was doing and he understood what I was offering him, he might have understood that probably he just burned a bridge for himself. But you can't fix stupid, can you? All right, C. Blanton. I am 492 on the list with a PHA here in Beaumont. So that's a shout out from a local Texan. I'm glad to hear that. Not far from you. Yes. And I'm disabled on SSDI. Is there any way to get higher up that list? Well, I think that any efforts you would have made to get higher on that list would have already been established. In other words, what you've already told them and what you've done preferentially can't be undone. You can't unwind that. So you are exactly where they intended to have you. Now, had you reached out to me prior to filling out applications and giving answers, that might have been something that could be done further because you can't go back over and over and over and keep giving you answers, hoping for a more preferred outcome. So I would say to you that 492 is not too bad, but if you look at the way that they issue vouchers per month, you should expect about 50 vouchers a month to be issued, and you're at 492, so you can do the math. You're probably looking at about an 8-month wait. Good Redmond and Julie, I feel for you, and I hope you have a safe place to move to. It's been so hot. Julia Thomas says living in a one room with a window units. Okay. Amanda Feber, where should I apply for the Section 8 in New York and in Jervis, Irving? Amanda, I would reach out to my office. I have a federal database that covers every housing authority in America. It's not something I'm going to be able to simply link up in the video. I would literally have to stop what I'm doing, log into my computer, so it won't work that way. I apologize. Promisey, we call you ORO or Mr. O, or Mr. O is what we call you. I feel unwanted here. Well, I don't want you to feel unwanted, my friend, but this is not a dating channel or a feel-good channel or a therapy channel. We're strictly talking about federal codes, laws, and housing. And so while I would like for you to feel better, we don't offer therapy live, okay? Just can't do that. So I hope you feel wanted in another channel. I would try the Fidget Spitter channel. People make wonderful videos there, and they're good entertainers. I'm not here to entertain, okay? Daniel Harris, in East Orange, housing is open. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for adding that to us. JM says, what's the rich PHA in California that no one applies to? Well, incidentally, there was a particular housing authority in California. Let me tell you all this story. This is worth hearing, trust me. The housing authority that I ran across, they went through great lengths to make sure they put no keywords in their website, not Section 8, not low-income housing, nothing, because they simply did not want to be found on the internet. They went through every measure they could to remain invisible because they lived in a very, in a community where it's just everybody's right behind a gate kind of deal. And so when I found them, I thought it was most interesting. It was a couple of years ago. And I looked at the website. I said, wow, what a really, really bad attempt. What a really good attempt at just cloaking a website to make sure that you can't logistically find it on the internet and that nobody ever calls them. They can just simply sit there and suck up federal dollars, buy the hottest new computer, leather sofas, pop champagne all day, and only give out vouchers to the people that scrub their toilets, the maid, and the lawn men that mow their grass, and just keep those vouchers for their just little private little community, right? Well, when I learned about that place and I found them, now, I made sure I sent them the best of the best. I sent them every hooker, prostitute, and drug dealer I knew that needed house and said, right on down there, get on down there. Let's give them some love, because when you want to act that way, when you want to act like when you want to be a bigot and a racist and you want to segregate your little community behind a gate, then I'm going to assist and help open those doors up. That way you can feel wanted again, because I can't stand PHAs that operate not only unethically, unprofessionally, but in such a depraved manner. So we loaded that wagon up for them, and I'm sure that their police department is super busy now. It's good. It's good to feel loved. For reasons of what happened, I'm not. Now y'all know I'm gonna keep it real. I do this for a living, and if we think we're gonna have a special housing authority that has some kind of immunity, you know how well that's gonna go. So I set them up. I ain't heard nothing out of them. They try to fight that. I even got a cease and desist letter. Look, you send me a cease and desist letter, that is an honorary degree. I'm going to frame that on the wall as an honorary degree. Like I just got it from Harvard. That proves I've done my job well enough that you prefer I quit breathing, possibly die, or disappear in the woods, or get eaten by an alligator. But that's how badly they wanted me to go away. So we set up that love on the front doorstep, and we sent them a flood. That way, they could taste the love. So, now, mind you, that again was in the state of California. So sometimes we have to bring those people back to reality. So any other housing authority that wants to participate in the systematic, depraved activities, then we'll load your wagon up and then wish you a good day. Because I know plenty of people that love to come out there and rob you blind, burn your house down. Look, everybody needs vouchers, and my job, I serve everybody. It makes no difference if you just robbed the bank and got out of prison, whether you're turning tricks out of unit number 3. My job is to help people regardless of what you do, who you are, how you do it. If you have a need, so I just simply set them up with the best clients I could think of. And it worked out really good for them. So now they've gotten a taste of generosity, and maybe they'll act ethically now. So anyways, besides all that, I assure you, I didn't invent that story. That's very real. I actually brought it up. You'll look at some of my older videos. I didn't say how I ended up dealing with that. So, all right, moving on from there. Steve Latin, if you have an advocate, they can help you. Yes, advocates can help. Social workers, case workers, they all play a genuine role in this process. We work with an agency, several agencies around the country that are federally funded to help people, and they're caseworkers. And again, I work with them to make sure that they've got the expert kind of advice to how to navigate beyond what they're trained to do through college. Because colleges and universities, despite having a PhD, are not going to teach you to navigate the system. Sorry, there's no curriculum on how to reverse engineer the system favorably for clients. That's what I do for a living. Julius Thomas says, wow. C. Blanton says, laughing my ass off. Julia Thomas says, thank you very much, JM. What's community called? I might mention that here at the end of the video. You're the bomb. Thank you. Julia Thomas says, I'm with you. And I hear you laughing out loud. Dang, I love to hit that place. All right, Steve Latin, Julie Wright. Could Redmond remind me of that song, I Want You for Me? Well, I sit in this office every day and I'm trying to figure out new and better ways to do casework for clients and help them with the vouchers and housing and so on. And of course, when you run across a way to throw them under the bus, I'm just like a child with a cookie jar. I mean, once I figured to climb on a cabinet, get in the cookie jar, I can just tell you that a housing authority would have operated that way. I wasn't just going to go quietly in the night. I'm sorry. That deserved all of my attention. They became my number one client as a housing authority, and I never charged them a nickel. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. So might even go revisit them and see if they need some extra. I bet you now the phone lines don't work. All right, guys. Well, we've had enough fun. And as always, I like to add a little spicy in here. So I'm going to end our message with just simply saying this, guys. If you're struggling with housing and vouchers navigating the system, maybe you've had a lot of problems with your landlord, the property you're dealing with, your neighbors, the housing authorities doing you bad, or you've got some other grievance, even with HUD. You can reach out to us. We offer appointments. We offer casework for those on the longer term that need to get through the process. I educate in many ways. I teach. I can work with people that know how to do most of everything or very little. Same thing with landlords, or if you have an agency or other formal, whether it's city sponsors, state, city, and you need formal training for your caseworkers, counselors, and so on. Happy to work with you. So I'll put the linkage in the bottom of the video, and I'm really glad we got to talk about this. Now, Sunday, I'm going to be talking again about some of the newer ways we're going to be offering services through my company. And I'd like to say one thing, guys, after all these years, reputations are based on trust. And that trust means that if you're like most human beings, you can listen or either watch a person speak. And their manner, the way they talk and how they act would indicate very quickly whether or not you believe they were full of shit or not. A person simply would radiate that they're either extremely knowledgeable in that area and have the proficiency to carry it out, or they're running a channel that's, they're going to talk about fidget spinners and give you some tips and tricks. Look, guys, I've always been very good at what I do. And though I may not be able to please every person or personality, because some people I have to let go as clients because, they're too complex. They're too complicated. But the reality is the vast majority, I'd say 97% of my clients, we've had a rather good, stellar reputation over the years, and we've had a good, stellar relationship with most of our clients. And I think many have benefited, whether you're seeking or you're looking to pick up voucher holders. So if you're struggling with this, I'm here. We are, as a company, as a last option and resort, always you should reach out to first 211, see whether or not they have any information to help you with your problem. Number 2, reach out to your local housing authority, the public housing authority, see if they'll answer your questions and get you through it. Third, reach out to HUD. HUD's the federal agency over the PHA, and see what they offer as answers. If all these things elude you and you still can't get done what you need or get the answers you need, then and only then would you want to reach out to me, okay? I'm here as a luxury. That's why the luxury is a service, and that luxury does have a cost, okay? I would love to be a free service, but unfortunately, I'm not a 403c service. I don't operate a church or a nonprofit. This has a real cost of time, and it does measure in dollars. And though I don't believe it's very expensive, it certainly has solved many lives over the years. So I'll leave you guys with that. And I'm also going to bring in one of our famous cats, Bunny. And many of you have known for many years. We watched my videos. I have an army of, did have an army of around 30 cats. And I want to introduce him to y'all in one of my videos for you pet lovers, because y'all know I rescue cats among many things. Matter of fact, I think we do have a visitor. Would y'all like to meet Mr. Bunny before we go? Let's do that. He was going to meet you anyways. Mr. Bunny, you want to speak to us? He's giving a quick shout out. Mr. Bunny has spina bifida and no tail. He also has no use of his bladder and other parts. And so he's my special needs Kiki. And we love him to death. We give him a permanent home, because we're not sure everybody can afford all the bills, but Mr. Bunny certainly appreciates it. And he is a giant love bug. Now, for those of you who always wonder what that tattoo in my hand is, that's masonry. And for those of you who don't understand what a mason is, you look it up. It has no political affiliation for those of you that are shooting from one side to the other. But just in case y'all wonder, those are not prison tattoos, okay? All right, I've enjoyed talking with y'all, and we'll see you this Sunday. We'll discuss some new options and hopefully have a little bit of fun with that. And Mr. Bunny will join us again. All right, goodbye for now.